Napoleon Hill at www.naphill.org, naphill.org. And so this was in a conversation between Napoleon Hill and Andrew Carnegie, and it goes like this. Napoleon Hill says, Mr. Carnegie, will you briefly describe the major benefits of organized thinking from the viewpoint of the man who wishes to make the best use of his time and ability? And Andrew Carnegie responded, the benefits are so numerous that it is difficult to decide where to begin or where to stop. But these are some of the more obvious advantages of this habit. A, organized thinking enables one to become the master of his own mind. This he accomplishes by training his faculty of will to control his emotions, turning them on and off as occasion may require. B, organized thinking forces one to work with definiteness of purpose, thereby enabling him to set up a habit that prohibits procrastination. C, it develops the habit of working with definite plans instead of blundering ahead by the hit or miss method. D, it enables one to stimulate the subconscious mind to greater action and more ready response in the attainment of desired ends, instead of allowing the subconscious mind to respond to the tramp thoughts and destructive influences of one's environment. C, it develops self-reliance. F, it gives one the benefit of the knowledge, experience, and education of others through the medium of the Mastermind Alliance, which is an important medium used by all able thinkers. G, it enables one to convert his efforts into greater material resources and larger income, since an organized mind can produce more than one that is not organized. H, it develops the habit of accurate analysis, through which one may find the solution to his problems instead of worrying over them. I, it aids in maintaining sound health because mind power that is organized and directed toward the attainment of desirable ends has no time to be wasted in connection with self-pity or imaginary ailments. Idle minds tend to develop ailing bodies. J, last but by no means least, organized thinking leads to peace of mind and that form of permanent happiness which is known only to the man who keeps his mind fully occupied. No one can either be happy or successful without a planned program for the use of his time. Planned programs are based on organized thinking. Andrew Carnegie continues, as I have stated before, the brain is something like a rich garden spot in that it will voluntarily grow a fine crop of weeds if it is not organized and kept busy growing a more desirable crop. The weeds are represented by the stray thoughts that take possession of the unorganized, idle mind as the result of one's daily environment. Study this list of benefits carefully, and you will reach the conclusion that any one of them offers sufficient reward to justify all the effort one puts into organizing his thinking habits. The sum total of all of these benefits represents the difference between success and failure. Success is always the result of an ordered life. An ordered life comes through organized thinking and carefully controlled habits. I use the major benefits of organized thinking in today's conversation where I'm speaking directly to those who say they're going to do things that they don't do, and to those that are dependent upon those that never do what they're going to do. Because those two, as I said early in the show, are examples of people that probably are not going to be successful. Their character's not so good, or they're too dependent. They're not self-reliant, a word that was read just now. But what I wanted to do was stay in the positive for a minute. You know, my life is one of just acceptance, not giving up, not quitting. And what I try to do is I try to help others through example, to persevere, to carry on, to always seek knowledge, learn more, strive for wisdom. And I'm really trying to say this. I've been given a calling to where I'm a person that's there for other people. I'm there for every one of you that's listening to this show. And I rely on the Bible. That's my main source. Think and Grow Rich is one of the most important influences on my life, and Outwitting the Devil is another. I've often said that the three most influential books in my life are the Bible, Think and Grow Rich, and Outwitting the Devil. Well, what I want to talk about right now is that my program, that I get access to so many people, other than just basically being a person that's got strong opinions that wants to help people do things. I actually have a vehicle that I've created, and that's the foundation, Right Thinking Foundation, and its purpose. And it's a financial literacy foundation, but I've said over and over again, it's not really about money. It's really only about 25% about money. It's about persevering, not quitting, not giving up, surrounding yourself with the right people, making good decisions. I can teach anybody about budgeting, but if they don't know their purpose, they're going to waste it and spend it on the wrong things. And so what I really am doing with my life, that I've been called to do, is help people find their purpose and lead them to the Lord. And so what I've got right now is a really good thing that I want to thank Don Green again. When I was coming across the book On the Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale, which I highly recommend, basically it came to a place in the book that I just loved. And it was a piece from a Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow. It was so powerful that I went back to Think and Grow Rich from Earl Nightingale's book On the Strangest Secret. And it was in the last chapter of the book, Think and Grow Rich. The chapter title is called How to Outwit the Six Ghosts of Fear. And it was this segment of the chapter was called 57 Famous Alibis by Old Man If. And so I wanted to use it on the show because it's so great. I mean, I'm going to read it in a minute, but I couldn't read it and use it on the show without asking permission because the copyright laws of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. So I called up, left Don Green a message. He was in a meeting, a board meeting, and he called me up shortly after the meeting was over when he was checking his messages. And I gave him a written request if I could use this 57 Famous Alibis by Old Man If with the permission of the Napoleon Hill Foundation for the mission of Right Thinking Foundation. And within a couple hours, he had to send it to legal. And legal got back and they said, yes, Steve, you can. And the reason that they gave me permission is because I'm trying to help the world become a better place, which is their mission statement. And I'm trying to get people to understand the great writings of Napoleon Hill. And I mean, I'm telling you, I've been with Napoleon Hill for 46, 7 years now. And I just love it. So again, the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, written in 1937, is a phenomenal book. And I want to say thank you again to the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And I'm going to read what they granted me yesterday. And it just says, special thanks to the Napoleon Hill Foundation for granting permission for the use of the below excerpt from Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, an official publication of the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And you can find them at www.naphill.org. And so now it is my pleasure and my honor, and with great appreciation to the Napoleon Hill Foundation, I'm going to read you this. And I want you to be thinking, if you're one of these people that uses these types of alibis, and the word alibi is, a lot of people think it's kind of synonymous with excuses. It's back in 1937, I think Napoleon Hill was using it as excuses. Alibi is a little legal, maybe, for I wasn't there. I can prove that I wasn't there when something happened. The definition of excuse from the dictionary here is it's an attempt to lessen the blame attaching to a fault or an offense, seeking to defend or justify. And alibi is more of a claim or a piece of evidence that one was elsewhere when an act, typically a criminal one, is alleged to have taken place. But for the purpose of what I'm going to give you now, these are all excuses. You know, the word if, famous alibis by Old Man If. And if you're using any of these excuses, and I bet you are, I've used some of those maybe recently, unfortunately, I hope not. Just let me read it to you. 57 Famous Alibis by Old Man If. People who do not succeed have one distinguishing trait in common. They all know the reason for failure and have what they believe to be airtight alibis to explain away their own lack of achievement. Some of these alibis are clever, and a few of them are justifiable by the facts. But alibis cannot be used for money. The world wants to know only one thing: have you achieved success? A character analyst compiled a list of the most commonly used alibis. As you read the list, examine yourself carefully and determine how many of these alibis, if any, are your own property. Remember, too, the philosophy presented in this book, Think and Grow Rich, makes every one of these alibis obsolete. Here they come. If I didn't have a wife and family, if I had enough, quote, pull, if I had money, if I had a good education, if I could get a job, if I had good health, if I only had time, if times were better, if other people understood me, if conditions around me were only different, if I could only live my life over again, if I did not hear what they would say, if I had been given a chance, if I had a chance. You go back and read one. I said, if I did not hear, if I did not fear what they would say, if nothing happens to stop me, if I were only younger, if I could only do what I want, if I had been born rich, if I could meet the right people, if I had the talent that some people have, if I dared assert myself, if I only had embraced past opportunities, if people didn't get on my nerves, if I didn't have to keep house and look after the children, if I could save some money, if the boss only appreciated me, if I only had someone to help me, if my family understood me, if I lived in a big city, if I could just get started, if I were only free, if I had the personality of some people, if I were not so fat, if my talents were known, if I could just get a break, if I could only get out of debt, if I hadn't failed, if I only knew how, if everybody didn't oppose me, if I didn't have so many worries, if I could marry the right person, if people weren't so dumb, if my family were not so extravagant, if I were sure of myself, if luck were not against me, if I had not been born under the wrong star, if it were not true that what is to be will be, if I did not have to work so hard, if I hadn't lost my money, if I lived in a different neighborhood, if I didn't have a past, if I only had a business of my own, if other people would only listen to me, if, and this is the greatest of them all, I had the courage to see myself as I really am, I would find out what is wrong with me and correct it. Then I might have a chance to profit by my mistakes and learn something from the experience of others. For I know that there is something wrong with me, or I would now be where I would have been if I had spent more time analyzing my weaknesses and less time building alibis to cover them. Building alibis with which to explain away failure is a national pastime. The habit is as old as the human race and is fatal to success. Why do people cling to their pet alibis? The answer is obvious. They defend their alibis because they create them. A man's alibi is the child of his own imagination. It is human nature to defend one's own brainchild. Building alibis is a deeply rooted habit. Habits are difficult to break, especially when they provide justification for something we do. Plato had this truth in mind when he said, "The first and best victory is to conquer self. To be conquered by self is, of all things, the most shameful and vile." End of quote. Another philosopher had the same thought.